Rich, let's do it, man. Let's bring on the man. Two-time AOY champ, fresh off of a strongly contested AOY win here at the end of the season. Came down to the wire. Chris Johnston, man, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Yep, it's great. What a man! It came down to the wire, and it was fun to watch. You and Trey McKinney came, blow to blow, but you held it off. Man, how did it feel? I mean, you had to be under tremendous pressure going into those last couple days.
You would think after winning one in a previous year, you'd think, the second one would be a little easier, a little less stress. But oh no, it had to top it and make it even more stressful. It never got easier. Not that it's supposed to, but right from St. Clair, we went to the Mississippi River. Obviously, we're tied going into that tournament. And then I had a terrible day one on the Mississippi. I think, 13 pounds or something, which had me way back. McKinney had a bad one. And then I was fortunate enough on day two just to find a little sweet spot. Probably after lunch, I only had a couple hours of fishing left. I caught 16 pounds basically in a spot the size of the front deck of a boat, and every fish come out of it. And so I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm at least going fishing day three, and McKinney's gonna have to catch him. And then sure enough, he caught just enough to get into 50th place. We're all watching the leaderboard. It's like, if he finished 51st, then I would have had a stress-free day, just get to go fish and have fun. But sure enough, he got in 50th. So there was one more day of torture. And that last day was one of the hardest days of fishing, just to get a limit on the Mississippi River. I knew it was going to be tough, but I had 4 fish until the last hour. And I finally got that 5th fish that ended up winning Angle of the Year. But the old wheels were spinning a bit, that's for sure.
How do you deal with that? Compartmentalize stuff? Do you have methods to chill yourself out like that? People don't realize how mentally challenging this sport is.
100%. And it's literally, I don't know if I have a good answer for that, but it was just putting my head down, knowing what I needed to do to have a chance at catching 5 bass. And I was in areas where I knew I could get a good bite, but just putting my head down, knowing that the next flip, the next cast with a frog, I could get that 5th fish and everything would be good. So it's just literally putting my head down and grinding.
Well, that's good advice.
And another thing is not getting spun out, not running 20 minutes up the river one way, trying to go get a little keeper that way, and just spending more time fishing than running around.
What is your like? Things go south. Like I know we deal with it all the time. We're talking about the mental side of things. Like when you lose a big fish, like especially when you're under the gun, like you are right now, with so much pressure. Do you have a method? Do you like blow off steam? Do you like break something and then get back to it? What's Chris Johnston's method to get his head back?
I'd love to say I have sit down and have a little time out and regroup or something like that. But no, it's time is money. So there's no time to fret about a lost fish. I just keep fishing, try and get the next one. It's all you can do. But I'm never happy when I lose a big one, that's for sure. And may call it a few choice words and then move on.
That's awesome. To be able to, get rid of it that quick, and honestly,
it's not always easy though. You know that as much as any other fish. When there's a lot on the line, you lose that big one. It's frustrating, but there's nothing you can do.
I gotta be honest. I think that's one of the keys. I think that's one of the keys to your success is not to be able to dwell. Like you see guys you see it all the time. Rich, we see it all the time. Guys melting down. I call it like wilting. You can see them lose a fish. They start spinning. They're doing all this negative self-talk. And, I think the guy that can get his head back in the fight quickest, I mean, at the course of a week-long tournament or a career, for crying out loud, that's a huge advantage. It seems like you have that advantage.
Hopefully, but I'll tell you what, getting that 5th fish on that last day of the Mississippi River, talk about getting my head back in the game, because that was the first point I felt like relieved. Been 7 hours of fishing. I'm like, holy smokes, I actually got a chance now. That's my 5th fish. Let's go catch one more. I had 40 minutes to fish, but talk about like giving myself a shot of adrenaline. I'm like, all right, let's go. I can do this now. I got a 3-pounder, and I'm doing some math in my head. I'm like, at least Trey's got to catch 15 pounds. So that was a nice little boost for me.
Man, that sure was. And, you know, I know Trey was in there battling. Was there, as you look back over the year, like, was there any key moments that like saved your day? Like, you know, where this, you know, we all saw the end when it came down to that 5th fish, but was there other moments that really saved your day?
100%. And this year, I joke about it with some other people, but there had to be someone looking down on me this year because I got pretty lucky. Porosnik, who I talked to quite a bit, and he jokes and he now calls me walking on water because he's like, oh, what's walking on water doing today? Even if I don't catch him in practice, I'll just land on him. And I had a few moments like that this year, right off the get-go. First term of the year, I had a not so good day 1, lost 1 or 2 bedded fish, didn't work. Day 2, I had 13 pounds. I'm like, I saw Porosnik down in Astor, and then I ran into him. I'm like, I'm just looking for one good one, thinking I need like a 4 or 5 pounder. And I leave there. I'm heading back. I got 10 minutes left to fish. I pull into a spot. I caught him years ago. I practiced it, didn't get to bite. Didn't get a bite. I throw in there, and I catch an 8.5 pounder on a spinning rod on a wacky rig. Just like I got lucky, and I get that in the boat, put them, and I head back to takeoff, and that gave me like whatever 19 pounds. So I went from probably being in about 70th place to probably 25th. Just a last minute, one of those things you pull in on the way back to takeoff. And again on Lake St. Clair, I had like 21 pounds. It was a final day, which was a decent day. And the biggest fish I caught all practice was 4.5. And I'm fishing about a mile in front of takeoff, and I'm leaving it right to the last minute. And I see one on LiveScope. I throw out to it, and I hook it. My marshal's like, is that a big one? I'm like, I don't know. I look down in the water, and it looks like it's like 2 feet long. I'm like, oh boy, it's a big one. I get him in the boat. I don't even have time to weigh him. Throw him in the box. Immediately go to check in. I made it back with 30 seconds, and I weighed him when I got back. It was like 5.25. Biggest fish I caught all week, and literally up last cast of the day. So that actually moved me into a tie with Trey McKinney, put me up to 22.5. And there was another one, Lake 10 Killer. Like I told you, I got a lot of these lucky moments this year. Lake 10 Killer, day 3.
Wow.
I go back to check in, and I actually in practice I caught 2 pound-and-a-halfers beside check in, pull in there. I catch a 3.25, and then I troll into check in. And it was just one of those years that everything kind of went right.
So Prosnick is you're upsetting him. He's like,
he's a beauty. He just shakes his head. And like on 10 Killer, I was fishing. I didn't have a great practice. I just flipping bushes, had 1 or 2 good bites in practice, but nothing spectacular. And early in day 1, I caught one good one on a swim jig. You mean I'm trolling through some trees, and there's an opening, and I get through the trees. I catch one, and I look back, and one's blowing up on a brim in this opening. So I throw my swim jig back. It catches like 2 3/4, and I joke to my marshal, I'm like, wonder if there's another one there. I throw back just in this big hole, and I catch like a 3-pounder. I'm like, all right, maybe there's something to that. And I caught like another 7 fish and 7 casts, and they're all 2 1/4 to 3 pounds. And it just little things like that this year that I can't even explain how it happened, but I was just in the right place at the right time.
Walking on water. That's what about overcoming? We see this a lot. So many guys win tournaments after a crummy practice. Have you, like, what was that like for you this year? Like, oh, that's it. I'm losing the AOY right now. I've got 2 bites all of practice. This is it for me. Have you turned some miserable practices into magic this year?
Well, that Lake 10 Killer, I wasn't expecting to weigh over like 12 pounds. And I think day 1, I had almost 17 pounds. And I went into the tournament. I had 1 or 2 areas I thought I'd get some fish. And then I knew a lot of areas where I wasn't going to fish or catch any. So I eliminated a lot of water in practice, and just, again, put my head down and went fishing, and just had a couple rods locked in my hand and had 8 hours to figure them out.
Wow. Well, and man, it's just,
I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. Typically, if I have a bad practice, I kind of go to my strengths. And luckily, a lot of the tournaments were shallow, bank fishing, grass fishing, flipping. And that's kind of what I like to do. So I just put that rod in my hand and went to work.
Is that if you had to identify yourself, you're a shallow water power fisherman?
Yeah, I'd go with that. Sight fishing, shallow water, grass. Yeah, that's how I actually grew up fishing. Everyone thinks I grew up smallmouth fishing, and smallmouth didn't really take off around where I lived till I was about 18 or 19 years old. So I grew up fishing with my dad, and every time I was practicing for a tournament with him, we were flipping grass, milfoil, and that's how tournaments were run around where I live. So that's why people are like, oh, how can we do so well in Florida or like Mississippi River? I'm like, that stuff when I'm fishing, actually look, you could take a picture of that and a picture where I live and it looks identical.
Right. Power fish. So dad's responsible for all this. Dad, the dad trained the Johnston brothers.
Yeah. You could say that he fished at about the highest. Well, it was the highest level you could in Ontario. He never ventured across the border, but they were fishing big tournaments here back when he was fishing. It's kind of funny. They were fishing for more money then than I could go fish now in Canada. They were fishing for like a new Chevy truck and like a Ranger boat for first place. And now you're fishing for 5 to 10 grand typically around here. But, since I could walk probably 4 years old, I'd be in the boat with my dad. We'd go practice for tournaments around home, maybe within a couple hours. And I think my mom just wanted to get us out of the house so she could have some peace and quiet. But Corey and I would fight over the front 2 feet of the boat beside my dad on the troll motor, who gets to stand beside him. And that's how I learned it. That's how I got the bug, and ended up fishing my first tournament with him when I was 11 years old. And that's when it all really started with the tournaments.
You know, you started fishing with your dad. He trained you.
Yep.
Was it time on the water? How do you explain the Johnston brothers' success? Because you guys are crushing it. You know, in particular, you guys both got wins at the top level. You both won. I mean, you 2-time AOY. Is it time on the water? Is it training by your pops that did?
Originally, it was training by my father, and then it was also time on the water. We took what he knew and his knowledge, and then we kind of expanded on it. And I think we were a little ahead of the curve, especially around where we fish. And we figured some things out when we were probably 13, 14 years old. We took a few techniques that no one was using up in Canada. Actually, a few of them stem from the States, and kind of started dominating up here. And once we started doing that, then we moved to the States fishing the Toyota Series. I think I did that when I was 18 or 19. But when I was that age, it was all time on the water. I was on the water 5 days a week practicing for a tournament. And a lot of the locals would end up getting upset. They're like, well, they don't have jobs or anything like that. How am I supposed to compete against them? And that was my job. I paid for school. I paid for the Toyota Series through fishing in Canada and just having success here.
You talked about a couple techniques that you were ahead of the curve on. What were those techniques that you guys figured out first?
One of them was flipping a mini jig. A lot of people back when I was growing up were still flipping like, I don't know, 10-inch worms in the grass or paddle tails or creature baits. And we were actually flipping a mini jig. So, and people were flipping big jigs. We were throwing a really small, compact, but a heavy duty jig for braid. And you'd end up catching smallmouth and largemouth. And you would outfish anyone on that little jig. And we ended up taking it to like Champlain, Potomac. And a quick story. My brother was fishing the Potomac. We didn't know Brian's fit at the time, and he was in the same area. And Brian came up to him after the tournament. He's like, man, you got to tell me, what were you throwing in that milfoil? Because he had never seen anything like it. And it was throwing that mini jig, because the fish just hadn't seen it. And it was the same on Potomac, Champlain, and just that different profile. And we had a little different action on it, how we work it. But that was definitely one of the techniques. And then just figuring out new areas too, using side imaging, rock piles that hadn't been figured out or grass lines that had rock in them. One little technique was going out pre-season before the milfoil grew up, do some side imaging on the lake, find a rotten pile that you'd never find once the grass is up. So just finding sneaky spots like that too helped.
That's great, and we've adopted that strategy. Catch that grass before it grows, or get out there and do your sonar work before the grass grows. And what jig is this? Is this
it's just a small, it's a small custom jig that we used to use. Now I use it in a Spro, called a CJ Flip. It's basically the same jig I used to use when I was young, and I trim it up and just use a small zoom, Chunk Junior on it, and they can't resist it. I use a black. I don't try and reinvent the wheel, but I'm hoping to go down to Potomac here soon. I'd love to have a tournament there and throw it again. I heard the Millful is coming back.
Well, it is. Of course, Smitty just won down there, and he be the guy to ask you. After he got that jig information out of you back then, now's the time. Let's get some info return. Yeah.
Yeah, we did show him that jig, and he's like, "Man, I take that thing out there." He's like, "I can't get bit," and then he's like, "I don't know what you do different." And then we'll go show him, and he's like, it's not his thing. Smitty's a caster, he's a winder. He's like, "That's just not my cup of tea. But if I get that jig in my hand, it's just my confidence bait that I'll use."
That's awesome. I want to kind of go down that road a little bit. All the controversy, we had the big coin flip with the forward facing sonar. We're talking about an AOY, talking about fishing shallow. How big a role was forward sonar in your win this year and last year? Like, if you had to, was it 50-50? Was it dominated one way or the other?
So I never really thought about it until after the season when someone asked me that question, and I started going through the tournaments. And this year, due to our schedule, I bet you only about 1/3 of our tournaments were I use forward facing, so like 30%. And a lot of that was due to the schedule. They had it on the Sabine River, like 10 killer, I didn't use it. Mississippi River, I didn't use it. I think Hartwell, I was bedfish, I didn't really use it. So I didn't use it a ton. Now go back a year, that was a lot of deep fisheries, minnowing. I bet I used it 90% of the time on that previous year that I won. So 2 different seasons, but in saying that next year with the coin flip and stuff, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to bring a lot of diversity to the schedule. I'm hoping honestly, people quit arguing about it and be like, "Hey, if you're against forward facing, you got 4 or 5 tournaments, you can watch it and see what happens with none. And if you love forward facing, then it's the same. It's the best of both worlds. I think it's the best they could do."
Well, it's interesting that 30% this year, and a lot of that was scheduling. Last year, a lot of the 90% heavy forward facing was scheduling. You were all those orders. But here's the interesting thing and I've said this several times, Rich, that John Cox has been the most consistent top 10 guy on the elites in the last several years, except you. I think you passed them with back-to-back AOYs this year, but of course, John famously doesn't even have it, doesn't use it, and
it's impressive what John does without it. Because there's some tournaments that I'm like, how would you even go fishing without it now and compete? But John still finds a way. It's impressive what he does.
No kidding. Well, it's interesting. 30%, Riz. That's not a lot.
Chris, when you say it wasn't a factor and you didn't use it, did you not even have it turned on, or was it just like it more of like an afterthought?
Yeah, it's turned on, but it's always on. And maybe I'm stuck in my old ways, but I see kids and these young guys that stare at it, and they're better at it than me. There's no doubt about it. Like, they're going around docks and staring at it, where I can't do that. I'm looking at the dock trying to skip my bait under there. I can't multitask like them. So I'll look at it periodically when I'm shallow fishing, but most of the time I'm kind of just looking at what I'm doing,
right?
Trying to cast at a target, something like that.
One of I picked up on, Chris, in another interview that I heard you on, is that you take your kids out fishing with you and you let them try out new baits.
Yeah, that actually worked this year. Yeah.
What's so like? how are you finding the new baits? Like, do you have like an inside line in like the JDM market? Like, are you scouring the webs every day for like the new drops on Tackle Warehouse? What is
yeah, it's kind of word of mouth, doing a little research, looking at the JDM lures, and we have a local tackle store that brings in a ton of JDM stuff. And to be honest, a lot of it's going into that store and be like, what is this kind of stupid looking bait, to one of the staff guys who I know very well. And like, oh, that's some new bait in Japan. You got to try it. I'm like, all right, I'll take one pack of that and I'll fill up a cart and I have $300 of baits and 90% of them don't work. But, I have a lake 5 minutes down the road from me. It's called Rice Lake and it's got rock piles. I would say fish is kind of similar to Oneida. And there's a couple of key rock piles and the fish are actually very smart and pressured now. So I take some of these baits out. My kids will drag them around on drop shots and Ned baits, and it's fun for them. And the last time we went out, I had a tournament. I had my oldest kid and his friend out, and then my youngest is 5. And the 2 older kids said it's me and him against myself and my youngest kid, and they ended up beating me. They had 19 pounds in about 2 hours, and my young guy and I had 14. But they were throwing a JDM lure. And I tried all my like staple baits and stuff, and I was trying and I could not catch near as many fish as them. But so one of those like silly baits that I bought in the cart, it worked that well. And they were just dragging around on a drop shot, catching them.
How important is that to you? Like, you learned a lesson by being ahead of the curve with that little finesse jig, that heavy power finesse jig. Like, are you always on the hunt for the next thing, the latest and greatest?
100%, and especially with the smallmouth, because up here in the summer, that's what a lot of our tournaments are won on now. And I had a couple upcoming tournaments. I had the St. Lawrence Invitational. I had a Kingston Open for like $50,000. And it's more important than ever with LiveScope. You're on the fish, you can see the fish, and they're going down looking at your baits. So now it's more important than ever to find that bait that you can get more fish and more bites. So that's why I'm playing around with baits here that I can take and then use on Lake Ontario, Lake Simcoe around here, and then eventually use them on the Elite Series, like on St. Clair or Champlain next year. So, I'm definitely trying to put that into play and make me some money.
That's the beauty of live sonar, right? You can see fish react or not react.
100%. Some of the baits, it's like falling down and you're like, the fish doesn't even, or it comes up to look at it and it swims away from it. You're like, yeah, they don't like that one. And you put that one pretty quick. But the baits that my kids were using, we ended up winning. I used it to win that invitational. Some of my fish came on that and this Kingston Open tournament, which is some of the best anglers in Ontario, Matt Robertson and Prosnick came out and fished it. We used those on that tournament as well. So, always learning, but in a year or two, those baits, they'll probably have seen it too many times and you have to figure something else out new.
But it's amazing you're able to win up there. You know, all the Canadian competition is up there battling. They all probably know your exact, rock fissions and outcroppings that you're doing well on, but you're able to outperform that. How are you doing that?
It gets harder every year, and people are like, how do you still kind of have an advantage on Lake Ontario? And honestly, I don't even know. Everyone knows our spots now. And that was one of the downsides I hate about Bassmaster Live, putting people's GPS spots on the map. But like we go out and there's 3 or 4 boats on the spot and it's a big area, but trying to figure out a way to catch them better than anyone else is the key now. And that's dialing in new baits, new techniques. And I don't even tell a lot of people this, but I guess we will today, is I may have the same bait as someone, but I present it differently. And that's all because I'm watching LiveScope and seeing how the fish react. So maybe I'm not dropping it on their head. So there's different ways to present that bait to the fish. So sometimes they don't like seeing it fall. So just little things like that, but it goes a long ways with these Clearwater smallmouth.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you're consistent, a performer up there. We love this place. It's Thousand Islands. Is that the best place? Is that, are there better, is there better fisheries up in your neck of the woods?
No, I don't think so anymore, but it used to be. I think the fish keep getting bigger on Thousand Islands, but also the anglers are getting better. So that's why you're seeing the weights go up every tournament. Every year, the weights keep going up because there's no secrets and anglers are better. There is a few lakes like Georgian Bay where they're still dumb. So you can throw at fish that haven't really seen many lures, but you're like 25 pounds is going to be good for 5. You're not going to get the size that Lake Ontario has right now. The only other one that compares is Lake Simcoe. And it's a tough lake. It gets a lot of pressure, but you can catch 29 to 30 pounds for 5 in the middle of summer there. So those two kind of compete against each other.
I always look when I'm getting ready to go to Lake Ontario. I look at that Canadian shoreline, like 100 miles down. You know what I mean? Like, do you guys have tournaments down that way, or is there good fishing down in that part of the lake?
No, actually, once you, it's kind of, I don't even know, the false ducks, and then you keep going further down the Canadian shore, it actually turns to sand, and there's not a lot of structure or reefs. And
Okay.
I've never heard of a tournament being won kind of 10, 15 miles past that. It's just, it doesn't have the structure. You get into a lot of salmon and trout and stuff when you go that way.
Okay.
Now,
How about,
if you went further, you could get into some reefs, but it's not really, you couldn't do it for our tournaments out of like the Thousand Islands area.
yeah, I'm just curious. It just looked to me like it's interesting to explore as just an angler. And are there ever events or out of like the Niagara Falls area, below the falls? Like, is there good smallmouth fishing out there?
I have never fished smallmouth down that way. There used to be a couple of Canadian tournaments when I was growing up that they go out in Niagara Falls area, and the guys would actually run a long ways to like harbors and stuff and catch largemouth. So I don't know if that's changed, but
Right.
for example, I don't know if you know Bob Azumi, Wayne Azumi, they used to do well.
Sure.
And they would run to these harbors and end up catching 18, 20 pounds of largemouth. And that was what was winning those tournaments. So the smallmouth might have taken off a little bit since then, but it's not known for it.
I noticed it seems like the islands are not where a lot of tournaments are won, like Galoo and Stony and the Ducks. It always seems like it's like the main lake shoreline seems to be where a lot of these bigger fish are. Is that, am I misreading that?
It kind of goes in phases, to be honest. Like, it's one section of the lake seems to be pumping them out better than others each year. Like, I've won multiple tournaments off that Stony and Glue. But this is going back probably 7-8 years ago. And then I haven't done well there. It seems like I get mostly 4, the odd 5-pounder. But then, like the main Duck Islands, I had a tournament that I won out there. I had 27 plus a day. But the last few years, I can't get over 23. It just goes in phases. And then like on the Canadian side, that Amherst, like sometimes that's pumping them out the last couple of years. But I just fished a Kingston tournament and there was hardly any boats there with that last term I won. It moves around. But like that Henderson Harbor area, that was like a staple for a few years. And now it seems like not many tournaments have been won or people have done well over there lately. I don't know what it is. It just kind of goes in cycles. But I do think one thing that hurts the Stony Galoo area, and now they're going to the main Ducks, is the charter boats. They go out a couple limits a day with 5 or 6 people in the boat, and they're pulling up on some of the best spots now, dropping live bait down, and they're taking 25 pounds of smallmouth out every day. So I don't think that's good for the fishery.
Yeah. I see that. It's odd. We vacation up there and we see that a lot of meat hunters out there in that region of the country. You don't really see that in a lot of other parts of the country, but it's still alive and well up there.
Yeah, and it is what it is. People want to eat some fish. It's just, it sucks when you see 5 and 6 pounders going over the side of a boat, because those are probably 12, 15-year-old fish. And it takes a long time for them to grow and replenish. And maybe that's why you're seeing some of the main shorelines better, more spawning areas around, and just has a bigger population of those old females.
why aren't there bigger fish up in the river, like in the, the Messina area? Yeah.
Yeah, there is big ones up there, but I think part of it in the last few years is you can't live scope them like you can up towards the lake. So I think that makes it a little harder. Like if you go fishing, I would say Brockville to Messina, you're going to catch 5 to 6 pounders, but you're probably not going to catch 5 of them in a day. Whereas I feel like if you had live scope and you could kind of dial in a little better and they were popping off the bottom, you'd be able to pick it apart a little better. But drifting, it makes it too hard and you get 1 or 2 fish in a spot, they shut down. Whereas if you could go with live scope, set up behind the fish, throw up in the current, never put your boat on top of them, you get more bites. And I think you'd still catch 26 to 30 pounds. It's just, I think it's easier to do with live scope. And I do think there's a bigger population of big ones closer to the lake. I don't know if they migrate in and out of the lake, but there's big ones all over. But like I said, I think it's easier to do it near the lake because of the scope.
You've trained yourself up north. But one of the biggest things that I'm most impressed with, because I struggled with it when I was especially early in my career, is making that transition into being a very good angler on a reservoir and the fertile lakes and all types bodies of water. How are you guys able to so quickly get good at fishing those bodies where you just don't have up north?
The reservoirs with no grass was probably my toughest one, just because I'd never fished it up north. That was probably the hardest one. If I was lucky, I'd go there around the spawn and then I'd be like, all right, I could do this. I could fish for them. But then trying to dial in the whole crankbaiting thing. And, that was just kind of winging it, learning on the fly. But that was definitely the biggest learning curve. But now things have changed with live scope. You kind of don't fish those old school ways. And I can go, and I don't think I'm the best at scoping, but I can do what I need to compete. And I can put that trolling motor down on those reservoirs that don't have the grass and kind of figure them out pretty quick now.
That's live scope, I guess, has changed that has helped a lot, and going to those crazy bodies of water. Cause there's a lot of tournaments where I guess you can just throw them down and just start finding fish on
like
right away.
Start in the middle of the lake and head into a pocket. And if they're not at the mouth of the pocket, then you just keep going until you find them. Go in the main spawning pocket, like the biggest pocket. They're somewhere in there and you just got to find them. But then finding them's one thing and tricking them, getting on a bite's another. But they are getting smarter, just like my smallmouth up north, those largemouth. I've seen enough minnows and Nico rigs and stuff. So
what do you think guys are making the mistake? Because a lot of guys are struggling with making that transition into forward facing sonar fishing, and they can't. It's odd. Super talented anglers really struggling to dial that technique in, and probably a lot of people watching this show that have it, and like I watch everybody catch them on it, but man, it's not as easy as it looks.
It's 100% not as easy as it looks. One thing people don't realize is how hard it is to decipher, like on these reservoirs, how to decipher what a junk fish is compared to a bass. And that's a whole learning process. And that's being on the water, time on the water. If you're throwing at catfish and striper and stuff all day, well, you're not going to have much success. But I actually went out fishing with Tucker Smith the other day, and he is so dialed in on that live scope. He doesn't throw at anything unless he knows it's a bass. And he's just so efficient.
Wow.
Where he's not throwing at catfish on the bottom, nothing. And I'm looking at blobs on his screen. I was like, ooh, that kind of looks like a bass. He was like, no, it's not a bass. And he goes by it. And it was kind of cool to see how good he is on it. But I forget what I was getting at, but it's just, you gotta be on the water and put time in to get good at it. That's all it is.
How do you think the the coin flip's going to affect guys like that? Like, I was surprised, like we saw down at the Sabine, a lot of the guys that are scope superstars, man, they did pretty good flipping too.
I think people are going to be surprised. I think some of these young guys are going to surprise some of these old guys that are complaining, not necessarily all old guys, but saying, oh, these scopers can't catch them any other way. I think some people are going to be surprised and they're going to catch them. And I think it's going to quiet a lot of people down, and just finally people are going to have to admit that these guys are actually pretty good fishermen. I do think it will affect some people that that just scope, but I think there's probably, I'd say 7 to 10 of those, what you call young scopers, they're going to catch them either way. They put their time in, whether it's with LiveScope or just fishing. They just put their time in, and it's time on the water.
Let me ask you another question. How tired is Corey hearing about this Angler of the Year talk?
Oh, we rub it in regularly. There's no doubt about it. And all of our buddies, they frequently mention it. And you want to know what really gets him mad is he loves hunting, and like he would give up fishing just to go hunting. And for me winning Angler of the Year, Bass Pro Shop they're sending me on a hunting trip for elk. Oh, so my buddies regularly remind him, oh, Corey, how come you're not going on the elk hunt? And it makes him mad. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do next year. Bass Pro said they're going to look after me again. So that's what really puts him over the top, is I get to go on some of these hunting trips or fishing trips that he doesn't get to go on. So that's just putting salt in the wound. But I'll be honest, he had his chances at AOY more than once, and he should have blown it out. I think it was on year one. We were on the Elites 2019. He had a motor issue on the St. Lawrence River, and he had to switch boats on the water, and he ended up making it back to the check-in like 7 minutes late. He missed the day 3 cut because of it, and he was on the winning fish. There's no doubt about it. Like, I've never seen smallmouth shallow and that many of them around his boat. I think I ended up finishing second that tournament, but he was fishing. I was fishing around Brockville. He was fishing more towards Wolf Island, and there was hundreds of bass swimming around his boat. And he never got a chance to go fish on day 3. He lost AOY by like 20 points that year. So he had his chance, and I'm sure it'll come. But in the meantime, I'll rub it in and ask him where his trophy. Yeah. So we've always been competitive about that stuff. Whether it's playing a game of cornhole, there's always something on the line. Bragging rights, $5, whatever. If we're playing hockey against each other, we're always very competitive.
How do you measure that, or deal with that? Like, you guys are very competitive with each other, yet you're each other's biggest advocate when it comes to, it seems like, sharing patterns or trying to figure out the fishery. It seems like a delicate balance.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I want him to do well. Just, I hope I do a little better. But when it comes to fishing on the water, we don't hide information from each other. And that helps kind of break down a lake. And everyone's like, oh, you guys have an advantage. Well, pretty well, I would say 95% of the guys in the Elite Series have someone that they talk to during practice. Yeah. It's like, hey, are you catching them on a can't even talk, a jitterbug at 90 feet of water? Like, go try that in a different section of the lake. And that's what we try and do. We try not to fish near each other. And that's a big thing. It's like, and it might hurt us at times, but if he's like, hey, I'm catching them in Pole Monkey Creek on a swim jig, don't come in here, but try that technique elsewhere. And it's like, well, maybe the winning fish were in that Pole Monkey Creek, but I won't go in there because that's where he was fishing. I don't want to take some of his fish for the tournament. But it helps give me an idea of what the fish are doing. Maybe I started seeing some on beds down by the dam. I'd be like, hey, don't go on this side of the lake near the dam, but there's fish on beds down here if you want to go look for them. And it helps dissect the lake better, quicker when you only got 3 days of practice. And like I said, it's something that almost every elite guy does. And we're very transparent with each other.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rich. What do you got?
Yeah, I know this question's going to come up on the message board. What lake are you finding the jitterbug bite in 90 feet of water?
No, I don't think I have a jitterbug, but there's lots of lakes around where I live where they, like an old spook works in 90 feet of water, especially right now. They're chasing smelt and stuff around, and they'll come 30 feet from 30 feet down and come out and hit it.
Oh man, that doesn't sound like any fun at all. The question, this, and I want to go back to you and Corey. I can't believe watching the stats, man. Like you guys work together. You're always, almost not always, so many times you're right next to each other in the stat sheet.
That blows my mind. So some tournaments the last couple of years, we'll be like tied, or I'll be in 15th, he'll be in 16th or something like that. And we're separated by like 2 ounces, and we fish completely separate ends of the lake, and sometimes even doing different things. And we come back to weigh in and we're separated by like an ounce. It's like, I don't even know how that works. it's completely random. And then if you look at overall winnings and stuff, or like top tens, they're so close. Sometimes I don't know how that stuff works, to be honest. I don't even know. It's a fluke. We can fish completely different styles. I could go 60 miles away from him and I show up back at weigh-in and we're within half a pound of each other. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's crazy to watch. It's you can't explain it, but man, you guys, it's interesting to hear you talk about how you fish. It makes it even more impressive that you guys are fishing that close, where you separate from each other.
Not because we're fishing beside each other, fishing the same fish. Because if you do that, it doesn't work. You're just cannibalizing. So we try and stay away from each other. When we come in and we're close to each other, I just shake my head. It's like, I don't even know how that works.
God, that's crazy. Well, we're getting in the fall here. I want to make a trip up to Thousand Islands. First, I got to wait for the wind to not blow, which never happens. But what should I go this month, next month, wait till it's even colder? What's best time in the fall?
The best time to catch a giant bag is probably 1st of November. And if you asked me where to go, I wouldn't even be able to tell you, because I'm deer hunting. But they'll be out in their winter spots, and if you can get on them, that's when you're going to absolutely beat on them. They'll be grouped up, and they'll be giants. They'll be as fat as they are all year, and you'll catch, if you find them, you'll be able to catch 30 plus pounds. But they're in small little areas. There's a lot of dead water. So if you feel like putting the time in and trying to find that needle in the haystack, find them on their wintering holes, you will have some of the best fishing you'll ever have. But right now, typically right now, the nights are getting cold, but we've had a huge warming trend right now. So it's not getting that cold, but the fish actually make it push up shallow. And that's some of the times I like to go fishing before they go out to their winter spot. When they're shallow, you can go throw a spy bait, a jerk bait up shallow, a bladed jig. And there's, like, for example, there's a tournament actually this weekend. Last year, I think the Canadian record was set like 32 pounds, multiple 29-pound bags. And I bet you 90% of those fish that were weighed in were in 12 to 15 feet or less. So, because they're making their fish shallow before they go deep. So if you like shallow fishing, I'd be going in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, if you can keep the winds knocked down for me and my son will make the trip.
Well, to be honest, that 32-pound bag and the 29s, that was river only.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's pretty impressive that they're doing that in the river even. I don't even think you could caught that in the lake if you tried, if it was dead calm.
Wow.
That were in the Open, the Kingston Open?
No, that one was in the lake, but the tournament coming up, it's just like a small 30-boat tournament I'm talking about. It's out of Gananoque up the river, but it's always this time of year. And like I said, like 32 pounds was the winning. It was a Canadian record for 5. And I bet you there's 3 or 4 bags over 29 that tournament. And it was all river only. And it's this coming weekend is when it happened last year.
Wow.
So they fish shallow, and if you can figure out how to get them to bite, it's some of the best smallmouth fish in the world.
Wow. Well, I love it up there. You've got a big, has anybody ever been 3 in a row AOY? Has that ever happened?
Kevin Van Dam, he won 4 in a row. So I don't even think that's comprehensible to try and attempt that. I didn't think I could win 2 in a row. So I'm going to start next year with the same mindset I always have, is first thing in order is I want to make the Bassmaster Classic. The second thing is I want to have a shot at Angler of the Year when I go up north. But first and foremost is having a shot at making the class or making the classic.
What's if you're putting a gold star next to one of the tournaments this season, which one's that?
It may be Thousand Islands, but like I said, it's harder every time. But the place has been good to me, and I'll maybe put a little pre-practice in and try and dial in some new bait or try and find some new water. I don't even know if it exists anymore out there, but you got to have something to have an advantage over the rest of the field.
We're off the clock to clock more fish, to fill our live wells and empty our coolers, because there's more to explore. The latest Humminbird fish finders work fast, see clearly, and know all the best spots. They fish even smarter paired with an encoding and break down the water like never before. If you like your plans loose and lines tight, then it's time to explore. Only with Humminbird. Get right to the fight. New Mega Live 2 forward-facing sonar puts you on more fish with an ultra-clear, rock-solid picture of underwater action. Next-gen clarity, next-level fun. Only with Humminbird.
Do you love bass fishing? Then you have to check out Bass University. Access over 1,000 bass fishing seminars and episodes. Get discounts on the tackle from your favorite tackle brand.
Learn the latest techniques from the top pros.
And never stop learning. And never stop learning. And never, ever stop learning. Welcome to the Bass University.
Welcome to Bass University.
Welcome to Bass University. Welcome to the Bass University. Welcome to Bass University.
Evolve, they change.
The original Element rods were really Cashin's first launch, kind of in a price point level. With that, we got a lot of feedback.
And that's what brought about the Element C2 and its launch.
The most affordable American-made rod on the market.
Mother Nature may be tough. I'm tougher. I'll take you where chaos is the cost of entry and where the fish are worth the fight. Because the bigger the question marks, the better the quest.
Well, you always seem to find it, and man, it's impressive to watch. So, yeah, you got to catch KVD now. You got 2 down. You know, you're the only one that can do it.
I'm sure he's just shaking in his boots in Kalamazoo right now. I don't know if he's got too much to worry about, but I'll take it one term at a time. And I didn't expect to win it this year. And it's a really weird year. Like, I didn't feel like I had a great year. I never made a top 10. I never was in contention to win a tournament. Whereas the year before when I won, I think I had 4 top 10s. I lost 1 tournament by an ounce, almost won another one. So I felt like it was a good year, but this 2025 season, it was just kind of a steady Eddie year, and it didn't feel like a banner year. So who knows what next year has in store?
Well, we'll be watching, that's for sure. And I hope you enjoy your fall season. I hope you feel better soon. And,
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, guys.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I said thank you for having me on the show.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're welcome. And enjoy the hockey with the kids and the fall hunting. And man, maybe we'll bump into you up there on Thousand Island sometime this fall.
I don't think I'll be on the water, but best of luck to you. I'm going to leave them all to you guys. I got 1 tournament left on Gunnersville there for $500,000, and then I'll probably put the boat away. And I like a little break from fishing, and I might do some fun fishing around home with the kids, but that'll be it for tournaments for me.
I got you. Taking that break is key for a lot of people. I can see it's important to you too. And thanks so much, man. Appreciate you being on Bass U. Chris, congratulations again for your AOY, and we hope to see you soon. We've been struggling to get you in the classroom, but maybe we'll figure out how to get around that process and get you in the classroom this year.
Well, to be honest, it was an issue with a working visa, but I have one now, so I got no excuses. So we can figure something out.
Excellent. Well, we will give you a call, my friend, and thanks again, and we'll catch up with you real soon.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.